Welcome back in the Hangar 8 for part 3 of the series. In the previous episodes you have seen us performing the incoming ground run, the inspection of the engines and the pedal party. In this episode we had the focus on the finding of the right hand main landing gear fitting. Don will explain the service of the wheel brakes and Joe will show you how we replace a carburetor on the engine number 4. First we need to get the aircraft off the jacks. Roll it slightly aft, reposition the stands and then bring it back onto the jacks in the correct position. As previously seen in part 2, jacking up the aircraft can be tricky and it is important that you keep the aircraft at the same level as good as possible. With that completed, we'll shift our focus to the right-hand main landing gear. To properly address the discrepancy, the entire right-hand main landing gear assembly has to come out. To support that operation, our shop fabricated a dedicated transport cart specially designed to handle and move the gear assembly safely. We begin by disconnecting the main landing gear drag brace assembly, including the downlock mechanism and the actuating strut. Once that is done, we position the cart under the gear. At this point, we disconnect the brake lines, electrical connections and the aft gear door.
Well, now we've got to look about keep an eye on the shims. Well, we could just go down a little bit.
Okay, it's coming down.
Next, we remove the landing gear attachment pins and the shims. Okay. Good to know.
Then we bleed off the pressure in the shock strut to allow it to compress.
Okay, going again.
With that load relief, the gear assembly is free and can be carefully rolled clear of the aircraft. With the proper equipment and enough personnel, this is a manageable task, though still a significant one. Once removed, we drain the hydraulic fluid from the strut.
Okay. It's better.
Now back to the discrepancy at the main landing gear fitting.
Good.
One of the task cards tied to an airworthiness directive requires inspection of both the inboard and the outboard main landing gear fittings using dye-penetrant NDT inspection. During that inspection, we identified a positive indication on the right-hand outboard fitting. An Airworthiness Directive, or AD, is a legally mandated requirement issued by the regulatory authority, such as the FAA or the EASA, to address unsafe conditions. Compliance is not optional. Back in 1989, an AD was issued for the DC-6 fleet, required repetitive inspections of the main landing gear fittings, either annually or every 500 flight hours. The directive outlines inspection procedures allowable damage limits, repair methods, and replacement criteria. In this case, the indication falls within that area where the AD permits repair. The approved method is to remove the defect by machining, especially grinding and milling the affected area to a defined diameter in accordance with the drawing provided in the AD.
Hvis du wieder Gas geben?
Ja, kann er wieder.
Passt.
So, while we're working on the fitting repair, Don will talk us through the brake servicing.
So basically what we've done here is it was a brake check, the pads were worn, so we've removed the whole brake assembly, changed the pads out. Because this brake assembly's been on since 2019, it has had some brake pads in the meantime, but we decided let's put new seals in it, give it a real good clean, test it, and we're just still in the process of putting it back on. That's basically. So we're just going to torque this up with Amy now, torque the bolts, and we've got to do the other side. And you can see on the brake here, when we're in service, we've got the brake wear pins, and they will basically, that's brand new brake, so these pins are all the way out and good. So when you set the brake and they're right in, you know they're pretty much at their limit. So that's the deal. These brakes are relatively good as well, because you can see there's still a lot of pin left. Yep. Yep, I'm on it. See, nice and straight. I'll go to the other side now. To do that first one again. Yep. Yeah, we're good. That's it. That's it. See, schau mal, wie fest das ist und dann
Once the repair has completed, we verified the dimensions were within AD limits and performed a follow-up NDT inspection, with no further indications were found. Per the AD, we are now required to conduct follow-up NDT inspections every 3 months for 1 year.
Yeah.
If no additional indications are found, we can return to the standard inspection interval. This repair represents the final allowable corrective action under the AD. If the indication reappears, the fitting must be replaced, a process estimated at approximately 900 man-hours per fitting. We also submitted a report of the finding to our National Aviation Authority as required. Now we begin reinstallation of the landing gear. All procedures are performed strictly in accordance with the aircraft maintenance manual. During that process, we identify some worn out seals in the shock strut. evidenced by a slight hydraulic leak. Based on that, we allocate to replace all seals in the strut. The DC6 main landing gear assembly is substantial, weighing approximately 750 kilograms, about 1,650 pounds per unit with tires installed. You can see that this job took us quite some time, but we don't want you to miss out any step along the way, so lean back and enjoy as we go. With the seals replaced, the landing gear is ready for reassembling.
Det kan... Mit den Schaum da drunter. Eine ausgeschaut, gell?
Ja, faktiskt så är man på. Du musst höher auf ihn.
Wenn man einen Baumstamm in der Pflege, jetzt muss wieder mit den Achsen nicht gehen.
Davon? Ja, sollen wir mal Pin machen, dann muss man richtig sitzen.
Jawohl. Ja.
Ja, ich glaube, das war der Ringaugen.
Schick.
Ja, ich höre das Mankett und das. Aufpassen mit deinem Knie,
We begin servicing the strut with Mill H5606 hydraulic fluid, commonly referred to as Fluid 41, which is also used throughout the aircraft hydraulic system. We cycle the strut multiple times to purge any trapped air, ensuring proper operation. After that, we reconnect all components: drag brace, hydraulic lines, electrical connections and the gear doors. We are now nearing completion. Brakes are installed and the wheels are back on. You will notice the number 3 brake disc is green. That's a new unit replacing a one-out one. A practical note on the DC6 brake maintenance. One method to determine brake disc wear is by weight. If the disc weighs 49 pounds or less, it must be removed from service. With the right hand main landing gear fitting repair completed, we will now hand over to Joe, who will walk us through the carburetor removal on engine number 4.
What we are going to do is we remove the carb from number 4 engine because it had some issues with constant fuel flow in various different altitudes and different power settings. So tried a few things this year, but looks like we put a different one on and see what's going on. Here we are now. Underneath that red cover, that's the carburetor we just talked about, what we have to remove. So we go through the list. Actually, the first thing is disconnecting all these lines around here, blank them, disconnect throttle and mixture, take the screen off on top, cover it, cut the lock wire, take out the bolts and lift off the carburetor actually. So that's about the job for the next couple minutes, half an hour. Pretty easy now because the top scoop is already removed for annual inspection. So for now we can put the things up here. This is where the fuel comes out from the carburetor, already mixed in the right amount. That is what the carburetor does. Then it goes down here to the fuel flow transmitter. and into the engine where it gets injected through one single nozzle. So we got some fuel out from here. That's fuel coming into the carburetor. It's coming from the engine-driven fuel pump. Comes with a pressure from around 23 psi to the carburetor. Plunk everything that we don't get any scrap inside. Okay, vapor vent line. Two more deck pressure lines on the side here. This one we loosened already before, makes it easier to remove it, the fire extinguisher line. Get a bit more access and disconnect the primer. Clear. So now we disconnect throttle and mixture over there. Mixture first. Throttle. Okay. Disconnect it. And now we have to secure it that it doesn't open and nothing can fall into the supercharger case. Now we need to take the top screen off and the cushion and the band. It's already prepared, but I just have to remove it. There's a couple screws left in here. So take that off with one seal. The screen and one more seal. Next thing what we have to do is to break the lock wire loose, and just in case something wants to fall inside, when we close the throttle already and secured it, protect it as well with some rags. If I drop something, it doesn't fall into the engine. So we have to break these lock wires loose, and then break these bolts. So, one we leave inside. So before I remove the last one, I will double check that everything is disconnected, asking a colleague for help to move it off the engine. This is off. This is off. Looks like we're ready. I turned this one away. If you give it a little bit of a yoo-hoo, looks like we are clear. So we lift it up in front first, get it around here. Yeah. That's it. Thank you. Now it's even better to see, that's the fuel nozzle. When the fuel gets injected to the engine, to the blower, which is down here, and then distributed through these pipes around here to each cylinder. That's the ADI regulator, which is on the DC6. We have water methanol injection for takeoff. That gives us another 450 horsepower rich engine, and through that hole here the carburetor is talking to the ADI regulator and find out the correct mixture, how much water methanol and how much fuel gets injected to it. It's quite important to have a good seal sitting on here. Okay, that's about it. That's the first step from, as I said, the carburetor replacement.
Time to wrap up part 3 of the series. All the major issues are solved and we're getting close to get finished. On the next part, on part 4, we will show you a scheduled prop change on engine number 2. We are starting to reassembling the aircraft. We do some post-maintenance checks, the post-maintenance ground run and a check flight. But that is a part of the next series. Bye for now.